Okay, good morning, students. So I hope that you are finding the sessions of Bioescalator extremely interesting. And in last 3 weeks, we have taken you from a journey through industrial biotechnology, bioinformatics, plant technology, and this week is dedicated to IPR and recent techniques that you need to know in biotechnology. So my today's lecture is on scale up and oxygen transfer in bioreactors for designing optimized industrial processes. We have covered details of industrial biotechnology in first week of Bioscalator. So this lecture is dedicated to telling you what are the very important aspects when we are taking any process from lab scale to industrial scale. Scale up is taking the processes from smaller scale in the capacity of 2 to 5 liters in the labs to a higher capacity of tons and tons in the industries, right? And very important aspect of scale up is oxygen transfer, that how do you maintain the optimum oxygen transfer to ensure good production in industries. So first I will take you through oxygen transfer and then I will take you through the scale up parameters. So as we know that majority of the fermentation processes are aerobic, that means they require oxygen. So to maintain the balance of oxygen, we need to know two terms. What is OUR and what is OTR? OTR is defined as how much amount of oxygen you are transferring in the bioreactors. And OUR is defined as the rate of uptake of oxygen by the microbes in the reactors, right? So these two parameters, OUR and OTR, should be in balance. Then only our microbes will be growing to a optimum strength and giving us good production. Now let us define what is OUR and what is OTR. So as you can see in the first week, we have read that at whatever places we add the term specific, that means we are talking in terms of per unit biomass. So here you can see that OUR, that means oxygen uptake rate by the cells, is defined as QO2 into X. What is QO2? QO2 is, look on my screen, QO2 is my specific rate of oxygen transfer per unit biomass. That means per unit cells. So if I will simply write dO upon dt. So simply writing dO upon dt means I am talking the rate of uptake of the oxygen. But the moment I divide this factor by 1 upon X, that means the moment I introduce the concept of per unit biomass, so it becomes specific. So oxygen uptake rate dO upon dt is measured in terms of specific uptake per unit of biomass. So from this equation, we write that dO upon dt, rate of oxygen uptake in bioreactors, is given as QO2 into X. Okay. So this is telling that after transferring oxygen, how much amount of oxygen is getting consumed by my cells. Now, what is this figure? This figure on the left side is showing me how the level of dissolved oxygen that you are giving in the bioreactors is related with the specific rate of oxygen consumption per unit biomass by the cells. So you can see that in the starting of the process at time t is equal to 0, as you are increasing the level of the oxygen in the fermenter, initially it is going to increase, right? Initially the rate of uptake of the oxygen is enhancing, but after a particular time it becomes constant. You can see that no matter how much amount of the DO you are increasing in the reactor, still the level of the CO2 becomes constant. That means, and why it is so? Because there is a threshold, there is a limit on the cellular machinery, on the metabolism. Only to a particular extent the cells can absorb the oxygen. So if you go beyond that threshold of the machinery, no matter how much amount of the oxygen you are giving, the CO2 becomes constant. So this point, this particular point after which the CO2 becomes constant, we define it as D critical. We define this point as D critical. And what is D critical? D critical is my critical oxygen concentration. So we say that we should increase we should provide the oxygen in the fermenter till the system reaches the level of D critical. So D critical is defined as the level of dissolved oxygen in the fermenter, below which, if you are providing the oxygen in the fermenter, the specific growth rate of the cells, specific rate of the oxygen consumption is going to increase linearly. And after the D critical is reached, the cellular level becomes independent of the level of the oxygen. So QO2 becomes constant. So from this figure, the definition of the critical level of oxygen concentration is the level below which QO2 is directly proportional to DO. As you increase DO, QO2 increases, but above which QO2 becomes independent of the level of the dissolved oxygen. So you have to maintain the concentration. Why I told you this factor? Because I want to emphasize upon the point that in the bioreactors, you have to supply the oxygen till the point of the critical oxygen concentration. Now let's move on to the next slide. I'll erase this data and move to the next slide. Now, once you have understood that what is QO2, what is critical level, we should need to know what is the OTR. Uptake we have studied. Now what is the OTR? Okay. It's not changing, just wait. I'll share again, it's not changing the screen. The screen seems to be halted. I will critical oxygen and OUR. Now, very important thing is that what amount of oxygen is getting transferred in the reactor. What is OTR? So OTR is given by this formula. OTR is dependent mainly on two factors. C star minus C. What is C star? C star is saturated or maximum level of dissolved oxygen possible in the bioreactor, and C is my actual concentration of the oxygen present in the reactor. So the basic fundamental behind oxygen transfer is diffusion. And you know what is diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of something from higher concentration to lower concentration. So same is the funda here, that in case of the oxygen transfer, oxygen travels from air bubbles to the liquid bioreactor because there is a concentration gradient. The level of oxygen in the oxygen bubbles is much higher as compared to oxygen level in the bioreactor. So you can see that this gradient, C star minus C, due to this gradient, our oxygen is traveling from inside of the gas bubble to the bioreactor. So first factor is concentration gradient and second is KLA. What is KLA? KLA is volumetric oxygen transfer coefficient. This is defined as amount of oxygen transferred per unit area, per unit biomass, per unit time. So more is the surface area. If you have read about the mass transport phenomena, when you are transferring something from one phase to another, let us talk that if something is being transferred from a liquid phase to a solid phase, or something is being transferred from a gas phase to a solid phase, whenever there is a movement across two different phases, the area of contact between the two phases is very important for the transfer. The more is the surface area of contact between the two phases, two different phases, more will be the transfer. So this is exactly what this formula is showing me, that OTR is given as KLA. That means what is the area of contact between the gas bubble through which we are transferring oxygen and the liquid fermentation broth present in the bioreactor. So these two are my driving factors behind oxygen transfer, KLA and concentration gradient. Now let us see what are the various steps of oxygen transfer. How do we provide oxygen in the bioreactor, students? We provide by sparging through the sparger. All the oxygen is transferred from sparger by means of giving air bubbles in the reactor. So let us see what are the various steps and resistances in the oxygen transfer. So what I have shown you here is that this green portion, this semi-spherical figure in the green, this is my oxygen bubble. And this oxygen bubble is having ample of oxygen inside it. Again, it is Okay, this bubble is having ample of the oxygen inside it, and this oxygen needs to come in the liquid, and in the liquid in blue circle, what I have shown you is these are my cells, microbial cells here. The oxygen has to travel from deep inside the air bubble and come to the site of action within this blue cell. So first step is, and the concentration gradient between these two phases, the liquid phase and the gas bubble, is the driving force behind the transfer. So let us investigate the steps one by one. Step number one is when my oxygen is diffusing, as you can see in the figure, when the oxygen is diffusing from the center of the bubble to the surface. So this is step number one. Step number two is when oxygen is moving across gas and liquid interface. So you should know that the very first layer of the liquid, that third step what I have shown you here, the very first layer of liquid in contact with the gas bubble is known as thin film area. And this is the step which will offer, as I have written in the down at the down portion, resistance at step number 3 is maximum during oxygen transfer. So this thin film area surrounding the gas bubble will offer maximum resistance in the transfer of oxygen, because this is the first phase which is different from the gaseous phase. So the whenever we are talking about the mass transport phenomena across two phases, the first layer of contact of the different phase with the first phase is known as thin film area, and as per the thin film theory, there is one theory known as thin film theory, the maximum resistance is offered by the first layer of the different phase. So this question comes in gate examinations many times, that which layer of oxygen, which layer of the liquid offers maximum resistance in the oxygen transfer. So the answer is thin film area surrounding the gas bubble is the one which offers maximum resistance. So now the oxygen is going to diffuse from this thin film area, step number 3. Then it is going to travel through the bulk phase of the oxygen. And you know that in the liquid, this bulk phase is liquid broth in the fermenter. And this is in the liquid phase, the oxygen travels by means of convection. So initial phenomena behind oxygen transport was diffusion, the concentration gradient, and second phenomena involved in the oxygen transfer is convection. Okay. So after the oxygen has traveled in the step number 4 to the bulk phase, it goes in step number 5, which is again diffusion through the thin film area surrounding the solid cells. So this step will also offer good resistance to the oxygen transfer. So this is my step number 5. Step number 6 is when the cell is moving across the liquid and solid interface. Step number 7, your cell are not present at discrete entity. They are present as cellular flocks. So step number 7 is when your oxygen is traveling through the cell clump, through the cell flock. And step number 8 is when it is going to the exact site of action. And what is the exact site of action for oxygen? It is mitochondria. We all know that in the mitochondria, oxygen is utilized to generate the ATP from the glucose. Okay, for the process of, so these 8 steps, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight, they are telling me how my oxygen is diffusing from gas bubble to the cell site, right? Okay, so what are the various factors which will govern the resistance of this mass transfer? So resistance in the oxygen transfer is mainly dependent on what is the composition of your liquid, what type of carbon source, what type of nitrogen source you have used, what are the rheological properties of the broth. I mean, what do I mean by rheological properties? I mean, what is the viscosity of the broth? How viscous is the broth? If I have used a cell which is increasing the viscosity, for example, fungal cells have a mycelium nature, they form a hyphae. So the viscosity when you have used a fungal cell is much higher as compared to when you have used a bacteria. Bacteria are having lesser viscosity. So yes, so one factor is composition of the broth, second is rheological properties, third is mixing intensity, how well your stirrer or your impeller is mixing the broth, and then bubble size and cell clump. I will discuss all the factors in detail in next slides. So these are the various factors which affect the mass transfer resistance when oxygen is transferred from broth, from bubble to broth. So this equation, what I have shown you here, gives me the gist of oxygen transfer. On left hand side, I have shown you OTR, how much amount of oxygen is getting transferred. OTR is KLA C star minus C, as I just told you. And on the right hand side, I have shown you OUR, oxygen uptake rate. That once you have transferred a certain amount of oxygen, how much amount of the oxygen is going to be consumed by the cell. So to maintain the balance and to have a good oxygen transfer, these two things need to be balanced. OTR must be equal to OUR, or OTR should be greater than OUR, because if the supply is good and consumption is okay, obviously our cell will grow. So as I was telling you that OTR is dependent on KLA and concentration gradient. Now let us see the various factors which affect oxygen transfer. The very first factor in oxygen transfer is bubble size. What do I mean by bubble size? See, we don't need to define it qualitatively. We should go for a quantitative kind of a thing when we talk about the OTR. So I will talk in terms of the diameter of the bubble. So any bubble, I will classify it into three categories: smaller bubble, intermediate size bubble, and larger bubble. So smaller bubbles are those bubbles whose diameter is less than 2 millimeter. Intermediate size bubbles are those bubbles whose diameter is in between 2 millimeter to 3 millimeter. And larger bubbles are those who have diameter more than 3 millimeter. So what happens is that we know that smaller bubbles, smaller size objects have greater surface area. And our understanding tells us that greater the surface area of contact, greater is the OTR, right? So the question should come to your mind that yes, if we should maintain a smaller size bubble because it's giving us good surface area, but don't forget about the surface tension. If the bubble is very small, that means diameter less than 2 millimeter, though it will have high surface area, but the surface tension is very low. And due to this low surface tension, smaller bubbles behave like rigid body. So whatever oxygen is present inside this rigid body, it will not be able to diffuse from the center to the surface. So due to this rigid nature of the smaller bubble, even though it has high surface area, our OTR will be lesser. And what about in case of larger bubbles? If the bubble's diameter is more than 3 millimeter, obviously, as I told, that larger things have lesser surface area and smaller things have bigger surface area. So due to less surface area, again the OTR will be lesser. So that means we are talking about a trade-off between surface area and surface tension. So it's best to go for intermediate size bubble, having the diameter between 2 millimeter to 3 millimeter, because it will have high surface area as well as good surface tension. It will not behave as a rigid body. It will allow all the oxygen which is present inside the bubble to come to the surface. In contrast to a very small bubble which was behaving like a rigid body and not allowing the oxygen to diffuse from the center to the surface. So I hope you understood that bubble size plays a very important role. If it is a very small bubble, due to low surface tension, the oxygen will be lesser, OTR will be lesser. And if it is a very large bubble, then due to lower surface area, again OTR will be lesser. So we need to have a medium sized bubble in the diameter range, 2 millimeter to 3 millimeter, so that both the surface area and surface tension are balanced and we have good OTR. Next parameter is gas holdup. What do I mean by gas holdup? Gas holdup defines the percentage of gas bubble present in the total volume of the fermenter. The total volume of the fermenter is made up of liquid as well as gas. So yes, higher the percentage of gas, higher will be my gas holdup and higher will be my OTR. But again, there is a click, there is a hatch point here. The point here is that if you have a very small bubble, the smaller bubbles have low rise of velocity. That means they will stay for a very long time in the fermenter. So if my bioreactor is full of smaller bubbles, I will see that the gas holdup is high. Why? Because these bubbles are staying in the reactor for a longer time. As a result, you will see that the volume of the gas is more. But is it a true measure of the OTR? No, because if it is very small bubble, you know it is behaving as a rigid body. So even if it is staying in the fermenter for a longer time, it is not transferring the oxygen. Similarly, for the larger bubbles have high rise of velocity. So due to high rise of velocities, larger bubbles will leave fermenter very early. So when you will calculate the ratio of gas hold up having in a bioreactor having larger size air bubbles, the gas holder will come lesser because larger bubbles have stayed for a very less time in the reactor. They have left the reactor. But is it a true measure? No. Only in case of the optimum size air bubbles having diameter of 2 to 3 millimeter, gas holdup is a good measure of oxygen transfer, because those bubbles are also staying in the fermenter for a longer time. They have a low rise of velocity as compared to the larger bubbles with great rise of velocity, and they're actually transferring their oxygen content to the bioreactor. So gas holdup is a good measure, is a direct measure of the amount of oxygen transferred, because it tells us the volume of the gas in the total volume of the fermenter, but only in case of the optimum size air bubbles. We also have to introspect what is the size of the bubble in the reactor before taking gas holdup as a criteria. Now this factor again, aeration and agitation efficiency. You're supplying the oxygen very good. But if your agitator is not working, the oxygen that you are supplying will not be mixed and equally dispersed in the bioreactor. So our spargers, which are of various designs, we have open pipe type sparger, we have porous diffusers, we have perforated rings. These spargers are going to supply the oxygen in the reactor, but they are going to be mixed and dispersed uniformly in the entire bioreactor by the agitators. So if we have good agitators with good speed of dispersion, then only my entire oxygen content will be mixed. So this figure again is showing that what is the effect of airflow rate on KLA values. On x-axis, I have got KLA, volumetric oxygen transfer coefficient, and in y-axis, I have got airflow rate. So you can easily see that as I am increasing the airflow rate, my KLA is also increasing, but after a particular time, it becomes almost constant. So agitation, there is a phenomena known as interfacial blanketing. I will show you by this figure. See, there are three figures here, A, B, and C. What is shown in these three figures? I have tried to show you is that the speed of your impeller or speed of your stirrer in the bioreactor should be synchronous with the air velocity. It should be synchronous with the airflow rate. At whatever rate you are supplying the oxygen in the bioreactor, at the same rate the impeller should rotate and disperse this oxygen in the bioreactor. So you can see here is that in figure number A, the speed of the stirrer is matching the air velocity, and these yellow circular particles are my gas bubbles which are uniformly circulated in the entire reactor. However, in case of figure C, you can see that my gas bubbles have clumped. They have made a blanket on the stirrer. Why? Because the speed of the stirrer was very slow and the rate of supply of oxygen was very high. So you are supplying a lot of bubbles, but they are not getting dispersed in the reactor. So they are forming an interfacial blanket on the surface of the impeller. And this is known as interfacial blanketing. And this interfacial blanketing is defined as a phenomena whereby the air supply rate or air velocity is higher, but the speed of the stirrer is very low, due to which the gas bubbles are not getting distributed in the reactor and they are causing a choking at the surface of the impeller, due to which OTR is again going to decrease. Right? I have written that if the impeller is unable to disperse incoming air, then OTR decreases extremely due to impeller flooding, or we call it as interfacial blanketing. So to ensure good OTR, please note that my impeller speed should be equal to the air velocity. The rate at which I am giving the air in the fermenter, at the same speed, at the same rate, the impeller should disperse this oxygen in the bioreactor. So this is the quantitative estimation that how do I need to maintain a balance between the volumetric airflow rate and stirrer speed. So this is the formula that you should follow. F upon ND cube should be lesser than 0.3 times N square D upon G. So volumetric, if I have maintained this ratio, there will be no flooding, right? So F is my volumetric airflow rate here, N is my speed of the stirrer, D is my diameter of the stirrer, and G is my acceleration due to gravity. So if I have done this calculation, first I need to calculate the ratio of volumetric airflow rate to the stirrer speed and stirrer diameter, and I should see that this ratio should be lesser than N square D upon G, stirrer speed, diameter, and acceleration due to gravity. So if I find out by mathematics that this is maintained in the fermenter, then there will be no impeller flooding. Another important factor, as I was telling you, is that broth viscosity. If I am having very viscous broth, it will affect the surface tension of the air bubble. It will decrease the surface tension. It will make the bubbles behave like rigid body, and due to which the oxygen will not be transferred. So I prefer to have a very less viscosity in the broth so that OTR can be easily maintained. Whatever oxygen I'm giving in the fermenter, that is supplied. So you want to have a lesser viscous broth. What are anti-foaming agents, students? What happens is that it is seen that all the media in the bioreactors is having carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and essential ions. So when we have high protein content in the media, which we have designed to support the growth of the microbes for production of the industrial products, what we see is that there is a lot of foaming in the reactors. And this foaming will decrease oxygen transfer. Why? Because my air bubbles through which I am transferring the oxygen, they will get entrapped in this foam, and they will not be able to circulate in the reactor as they have been entrapped in the foam. So we need to break this foaming effect. And also the reason for foaming is high degree of aeration and agitation in the reactor. So two things are there which are responsible for the foaming phenomena in the bioreactors. One is high protein content in the media, and second is high degree of aeration and agitation. So this foaming causes a negative effect on the oxygen transfer as my air bubbles are getting entrapped. So I need to break this foaming effect, I need to add the anti-foaming agents. So we add a lot of anti-foaming agents, chemical agents, as well as we also use mechanical foam breakers in the bioreactor to break this foam. But there are also some negative effects. If you have used a high concentration of anti-foaming agents, what will happen is that it will cause coalitions of the smaller bubble into bigger bubbles. And if my smaller bubbles coalesce and make bigger bubbles, what will happen? I told you in the initial slides that in bigger bubbles, we have low surface area. So oxygen will not be transferred in optimum amount. So make sure that you are adding the anti-foam agents, but you are adding in optimum amount. If you are going to give overdose of the anti-foaming agents, it will cause coalitions of the smaller bubbles into bigger ones, which will again decrease the OTR due to increase in the surface tension and decrease in the what? Decrease in the surface area. Small को बड़ा कर दिया क्योंकि उसने. Then there are other factors, temperature. If we increase the temperature beyond 40 degrees centigrade, we have seen that oxygen solubility decreases, and due to decrease in the oxygen solubility, OTR will decrease. And vessel geometry also, it has been seen that if we have a fermenter in which height to diameter ratio is not maintained in the aspect of 3:1, the OTR is affected. Also, it has been seen that normally if we add salts like sodium salts or potassium salts in the bioreactor, they will increase the OTR. They suppress the coalitions of the bubbles. That means they do not allow the smaller bubbles to merge and form bigger bubbles. And so if we have a smaller bubble in the range 2 to 3 millimeter, we will have good OTR. So normally salts are also seen to increase the OTR. Now, very important aspect is, as I was talking about impeller speed, I was talking about the rotation. So this is all these factors, the rotation speed of the impeller. This is related with the power supply. How much amount of the power supply, power per unit volume I am giving to the bioreactors. So this equation is telling me the relationship and the effect of power consumption on KLA, OTR. Okay. So it shows that KLa is equal to K into P upon V to the super ratio X into V into Y. What is P? P is my power input, V is my volume of the reactor, Vs is the superficial air velocity, and K, X, Y are the empirical constant. So you can see what the intention of this equation was to tell you that there is a direct relationship between power input per unit volume and rate of oxygen transfer. More the power you are giving to the reactor, more will be the speed of the impeller and more will be the KLa. So there is a linear relationship between power input per unit volume and KLa in the bioreactors. So this is, I have tried to show you the typical values of X when you are talking about the lab scale, pilot scale and production fermenter, and the values of Y, K and X. Now, once I have studied the oxygen transfer, the next important aspect is scale up of bioreactors. So you can see in the figure that I'm talking about the bioreactors in the industries which are having capacities of tons and tons. However, on the lab scale, we were referring to the benchtop fermenter having a capacity of production of 5 liters only. So to take up a process from a capacity of 5 liters in the lab to the capacity of 1,000 liters in the industry, we need to keep track of certain parameters because the same environment, same kind of the production conditions is required, but it is easier to maintain those conditions in a smaller scale fermenter in the lab as compared to the industries. So now, what are the factors which affect our choice of a scale up criteria? So mainly I will show you that it is dependent on two considerations. When we are going to select the scale up criteria, there are two things. First is what is the nature of fermentation and what is the type of the culture, what is the morphology of the culture, the microbes that we are using in the fermenter. So I need to take into account these two factors. What we need to optimize, what is our objective of the fermentation, and what is the nature of the fermentation and morphology of the microbial cells that I have used. So when I talk about the nature of the fermentation and culture morphology, that means I need to investigate whether the culture is aerobic or anaerobic, whether the cells that I'm using are bacteria or fungus or mammalian cells or plant cells, because nature of the cells affects the type of environment it will need. We all know that each cell has a specific temperature, pH and ionic strength requirement. So we need to thoroughly investigate what kind of the cells I have used in my bioreactor. Then you need to take into account whether it is an endothermic reaction or an exothermic reaction. What is the exothermic reaction? The processes which release energy. So if your process is such that it is going to release huge amount of energy, then we need to take into account different kind of the parameters. Also, I need to keep a track whether it is a thermophilic organism or a mesophile or a psychrophile. So nature of the cells, what kind of temperature it requires, whether it is a low temperature preferring microbe, whether it's a psychrophile, or it requires a temperature in the range 20 to 40, that means a moderate microbe, a mesophile, or it requires very high temperature. Then we need to think whether it is a viscosity, what is the viscosity of the culture, and what are the properties of the broth, whether it is a Newtonian broth or it is a non-Newtonian broth. You need to get into details. In mass transfer, we see that Newtonian are those broth in which there is a direct relationship between shear and stress. And second parameter was what I was saying is that if you have seen that what is the nature of media and microbe, I need to see what I need to optimize, whether I need to optimize the biomass yield or I need to go for optimization of the product yield. What is the concentration of the cells? Do I need to optimize or have a higher concentration of the product or the activity of the product? And also whether my intention is just to optimize the concentration of the product or the productivity per unit volume. So all these parameters, all these things affect the choice of the scale up criteria. So major factors in scale up is inoculum development. What size of the inoculum is required? Because in the lab, you're fine with using 1 liter, 1 ml or 2 ml of the culture. But when you talk about the industries, 1 or 2 ml of the microbe will not serve your purpose, right? You need to go for inoculum development having 100 to 200 liters of the microbial size. Sterilization conditions, we have discussed that yes, thermal death kinetics is very important, and different kind of the sterilization are carried: batch sterilization, continuous sterilization. Environmental parameters, nutrient availability, pH, temperature, DO level, shear conditions, stress, DCO2 level, foam formation, all these factors are very important in scale up. And I will tell you the 5 general criteria which need to be maintained as a constant factor in a scale up when you are taking a process from lab scale to industrial scale. First important criteria is that different scale up criteria have been used depending on, as I was saying, type of fermentation and objective of optimization, that whether you want to optimize the product or the biomass or the productivity per unit volume. So first assumption is that when you are going for scale up, you must maintain a geometric similarity between the bioreactor vessels. What do I mean by geometric similarity? If normally it is a thumb rule that height to diameter ratio in the bioreactors is 3:1. The height of the bioreactor should be 3 times the diameter of the bioreactor. So maintain this constant ratio when you're going for the scale up, right? So I was telling you that these 5 parameters, they are the thumb rule for scale up. Maintain the constant KLA, the value of KLA, volumetric oxygen transfer coefficient that you were having in the lab, same KLA level needs to be maintained in the process when you are going for the industrial scale. So keep track that KLA remains constant. Second parameter is power per unit volume. So whatever power, suppose you were supplying 1000 watt per liter of the fermenter. So when you are going for the scale up, you have to ensure that this same ratio is maintained, 1000 watt per liter. So even if you have taken a process from 5 liter to 1000 liter, you have to scale up the power requirement accordingly. So if it was a culture of 2 liter requiring the power of 2000 watt, so similarly you have to see what will be the requirement for a 100 liter fermenter at an industrial scale. Then third parameter is tip velocity of the impeller. Power per unit volume is directly going to affect the velocity of the impeller, and impeller is the one which ensures there is uniform mixing of the media and the cells and the oxygen. If there is no uniform mixing, there won't be optimum production. So tip velocity of the impeller needs to be maintained in constant ratio when you're scaling up the process from lab scale to industrial scale. Fourth is aeration number. The same amount of the aeration should be there to ensure the good OTR and OUR. And impeller's Reynolds number. Reynolds number is related to the diameter of the impeller and speed of the impeller. So Reynolds number give me a characterization of the type of the flow I am going to have in the broth. I hope you know that you can classify your flow characteristics, your fluid characteristics into turbulent flow, laminar flow, and normal flow. So if the Reynolds number in the range 1000 to 2000 gives us a medium flow. If it is lesser than that, lesser than 1000, it is a laminar flow. And if it is more than 2000 Reynolds number, then it is a turbulent flow. So you have to ensure that the flow type or the liquid characteristics are maintained in the scale up, and Reynolds number is a parameter for that. So you have to keep a track of the Reynolds number while going for the scale up of the processes. So this is what I was talking in the last slide, and I have showed you that how these process variables affect various characteristics of the fermenter. So power per unit volume, power supply that I was referring in last slide, it affects OTR, impeller tip speed, it's going to affect the mixing and shear rate. Again, the KLA, volumetric airflow rate, it is going to have a huge impact on OTR, so I need to maintain it constant. the pumping rate and the Reynolds number, because Reynolds number affects the heat transfer as well as the, one thing I forgot to write here, as well as the fluid characteristics, the flow properties, whether it is a laminar flow or a turbulent flow or a streamline flow. Normal flow means streamline flow. And height to diameter ratio should be 3:1. So these 5 parameters need to be maintained at constant level when you are scaling up a process from lab scale to industrial scale. So I've shown you some calculations from an industrial site that when they have scaled up a process from 80 liter to 10,000 liter, how they have measured that, what should be the P, what should be the P/V ratio, flow rate in India. It was just for giving you a hint that how do we do the calculations. So thank you very much. If you have any doubt, I hope the concepts of OTR and the various factors, bubble size, impeller speed, power input, type of sparger, viscosity, how these all impact my OTR and what parameters I need to keep into mind while scale up of my processes from lab scale to industrial scale. These are all are clear to you. You can write to me if you have any query.